Be willing to turn on these two TVs for me.
I didn't even interrupt.
One of them turn on both of them.
Well, he just said 40 to 81 to 64. Yeah, he knew that.
I'm not sure one of them turn on either one of them.
And there's like 3 different ways. Oh, okay. Yeah, you can fill out for it. Right. Or you can miss all that traffic and red lights and slow road and you can fill the rain. Yeah. I go with you. It's probably going to, it's a big deal. That might be.
Remote jobs, so that might
It's probably just going to take 81. I think go straight up, because it'll go straight up the western part of Virginia. I love the drive.
caregiver, care doctor, caregiver.
I know that's for Carolyn. Oh, that's great. That's great.
Right.
Yesterday, I had to
Exactly. You know, right, exactly. People could rate the color. I remember telling somebody this is dropped out. That was Tennessee.
Oh, look who's here.
Is that your dinner? Do you have chicken nuggets? There's no nuggets. Even the no-nos. He tells me they're not chicken nuggets. Is he in the no-nos? Every time we do the same thing, oh my gosh, the same notes and the same.
Just to communicate.
This is what you did when we're on vacation. Are you saying no? No. Yes. So we went back and forth. It's about to just be contrary. So
We have another song.
I made that one up while we were there. It was so good. No. Yes. Yes. No.
You're silly. Yeah, you'll be free. Good job, Rich. How do you do that? That's your that's like nearly all
It used to be as soon as I'm in the chair and I'm like, are you kidding? You know I'm about to go. They what did that? Means I haven't done it. It's like how do they know?
That's just big.
They just leave.
Do you think so? She's just she wants you to eat yours.
You get to dedicate it on the
She wins
after John. Where did John go? Texas. Okay.
But he driving now and half back and forth.
But he's got the shortest. I've got my ring.
Headaches just now.
He's using it like contrary. I'm like, he was just being contrary. We had a couple weeks ago. No. We were going back and forth, so I'd say yes, he'd say no, I'd say no, he'd say yes. But yeah, that was like the coolest. It distracted him really well once he was getting like that something contrary.
They didn't know what caused it. They thought always just take so there's the girl and boy suddenly they just got
There should be no
the granddad. This was like there's sweets.
Say bye to her. She got all the slots that actually matter. You sit here?
Daddy don't.
But it's good to see you. Everybody's right.
Oh, there he is. That's got me. Let's turn around. There it came in.
Yes, you do.
We see you on that. So here.
can't really get the experience.
I didn't mean for you to have to do it. It was 6 hours to see my Sukkot. Oh, and people did it.
There's fun. Brian.
This side over here, the girl working for daddy. I mean, I did my.
And then if they wanted to just tell me the next time, I cut it. No, I don't.
That's when the next piece, yeah, that's got a next piece. You can see her listens in it, she might be taking it.
We did that to make sure it wasn't going out. And we're gonna put it on more than eight. Put the back corner through the window.
A friend of mine talked to me, I said, so be honest. Some of them she took courses that I had, and they were like this book is like this. And so, yeah.
There's mom and dad.
The only thing I did is when you but every time the phone is little lights just fine.
Yeah. I'm not sure why. I guess they just figured it. But it didn't look as good.
It's just the interest, but a lot of people today have some like long-term business or travel and all that. That's common. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the house all of it is traveling and you know, because that's where that's somewhere outside. Right. They're just money class. So you got the Old Testament, the New Testament, and then you have what is position doctrine. It just sort of now that nobody else here this is the time where you open yourself up just you look up to God and you're only yourself and you allow that experience well.
Yeah, whatever it is. 2 weeks old today. Well, in the week, the nurses well worn out. This morning and the second is like one day. They got 7 hours of time for you. And you're so lucky. We always do up there. Lighter, closer to Jerry. So Mike is the 20.
Sock on it.
So you're and I can be there.
I know. So keep it.
You're there.
Under his school, he's elected structure back to
Did she come out to classes?
Like needs really okay. Riot.
It's amazing how long babies live for you. It's a wonder they didn't like gouge their face out. Yeah.
She literally scarred herself off.
Yeah.
And
Better than oven Sometimes I'm thinking, oven yours or?
She put her hand in her
Strange
Someone
experience.
inside. Yeah.
There's another person inside.
And that's when
I don't know. They can't wait to see him. And this little stranger. Well, hello, now I get to know you. That's amazing. Like it, not like it. Yeah. Yeah. He's right there.
Wait, you don't have to.
Like Denver, they don't like me.
Reckon I left my phone at home today.
Yeah, they could make stuff. Yeah, some of these are.
Right, I know, yeah.
That would be some information.
Standard bass now. Matthew had a bag refund, so anyway, he didn't say one of the hours. So anyway, he's like, well, yeah, that was either my arm or legs crossing on. That's a rough stage.
Well, and I had a surprise. I had the elevator and just wiggle and wind up upside down and I'm like,
Okay, go ahead.
It actually
yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, she's I heard her growl. She's growling for her. Oh, really like to growl. You like to growl? What kind of animal growls? A bear?
Yeah.
A lion? She's not another friends that I could dog with Archer. I was trying to, I don't growl. There you go. You growl really good. How are you? Well, very well. Exactly right. I don't. I fail because I know that's you.
Stay off.
Thank you. But it was on. I've already walked up there. They had the internet's back down. He said things
I got to know, I really did check, but I had to drop into Nashville, so it's really interesting.
That's not much checking, but
I wanted to talk about other special.
that's what I
Well, okay, but you don't get it naturally, that's really easy to get. They just have a first one.
No, it really was.
And I had I just made that
There's nothing wrong with that.
I would have taken it and figured out what it was.
You can tell it's not their fault. When I have to call my agent, and she didn't like when I'm going to work out things, she gives me I think the others are like, well, so this little guy, she said, she's trying to say something. So I asked the guy, we don't carry sticks anymore. I bet you where's Anna? But you
Then I saw another one. So I just like gray salt. It's gray salt and pink salt. Yeah. Actually, most of the pink salt is green salt.
Hello. Testing, working, right.
There's one of you, John.
Are you?
Don't take her on with you, John. Yeah, Shirley's supposed to do it.
Oh, cool. Joshua, the next time it has sources in the lighting and then exactly what it was, because weights techniques are a little higher than where the pain was and all that. So, London's just nervous. Just check the like so much of course the radar on social I never
It was showing your screensavers, it should be showing you.
I remember I remember there was a patient.
The screensaver went away.
Yeah. And Vernon screen. Oh, sure.
No, this is
You know,
not
to your son, you have to go through that.
screensaver was up there, so is that?
So this is what it feels like.
Oh, Josh was here with me.
Where is screensaver?
I was afraid to have it anymore.
I'm back, so I don't see you back.
The center was up right, so it was smiling on his line. There we go. So he's smiling against my spine was so raw. That whole back, all of the nerves, just really labored. Oh, she did. So.
Are you good? All right.
On the strength.
Kathy restrained.
Yeah, after surgery.
Well,
We'll be known after.
so guys, listen. This guy is clearly surprised to be here, whoever's on the screen right there. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm glad that every single one of you is here tonight for night number 3 that John is with us, and we just look forward again, as we do every night of Sukkot, to having him expose us to the hidden treasure, the hidden nuggets that are there for us to find. So we just thank you guys for being here, and we thank John for being here. And here in a minute, we're going to get the man from behind the curtain. Ladies and gentlemen, John Costa.
We will start as soon as this ovation dies down. Okay, we actually, I think the literature says I'm supposed to start speaking at 6:50. So we're not actually, it's not at 7 yet, so we'll wait till 7 to begin the actual tonight's talk. But for filler, I found these pictures on the internet. And what do you think they are? There's one. These are selfies. Selfies of the plague. Isn't that funny? Look, he's
Oh, the boils. The locust.
Well, that was pretty clever of whoever. And we still have 4 minutes, so this was, I thought, pretty cool. I found this about a year ago, and I don't know where to put it in which talk, so we just throw it in. This is something extra. So he drove man out, and at the east of the Garden of Eden, he stationed cherubim and a flaming sword, which turned every direction to guard the way to the tree of life. He's guarding the way. Okay? This word, way, in Hebrew is derek. In fact, we get a word in English from this.
Direction.
Direction. Okay? Which way? Which direction? And the three letters that make up the word Derek are Dalet, Resh, and a Kaf. Kaf, remember, that's the one that looks like this. Unless it's the last letter of the word, then it looks like that. And it represents an open palm. If you see it at the end of a word, it means your. Like, you hear that in Shema Israel, Yahweh, Eloheinu. Oh, no, you don't hear it, no. But you do hear it if you say, Eloheka, your God. Okay? You put an eka on the end. And this idea of the way or direction, that goes out through the Bible. God looked upon the earth and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on earth. You'll see this word way, Derek, all through. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Prepare ye the way of the Lord. You just always hear about the way. When people ask me, John, what religion are you? I don't know what to say. I'm a member of the Baptist church in Houston. I haven't been in 20 years. So I just tell people now, I'm a follower of the way. That's the best thing. And in the New Testament, those early Christians were followers of the way. They were persecuting followers of the way. So, and good luck explaining, if somebody asks you what religion you are, explain this. Well, what do you say? Messianic? Yes. I don't know what you say. Okay, anyway, what I think is clever about this word Derek, because it means the way to God, you got to know the way. Look at each of the three letters. Each one looks like someone's bowing, doesn't it? I figure if you humble yourself to the Father and the Son and the Spirit, that's a good start. Okay. Now, tonight, it is 7 o'clock. I see the door just opened. Who's coming in? Must be a kid. Okay. We're going to talk about, hello. We've been waiting for you. Tonight we're going to talk about the book of Joshua and the parallels that it has with Jesus and the book of Revelation. Okay? So there's, if you try to break up the book of Joshua, that's kind of how it's broken up. He brings the children into the land. They inherit the land. They divide the land. And then Joshua charges the people to obey and serve the Lord. Okay, we're going to skip that and go right here. Deuteronomy 18:18. This is God telling Moses, hey Moses, I will raise up a prophet from among their countrymen like you. He's talking to Moses. And I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. What God is saying here is, he's telling Moses three things. There is a Messiah coming sometime in the future. I'm going to raise him up. He's going to be a prophet. What else do we learn from this? He's going to be Jewish, because it says from your countrymen. And he's going to be like you, Moses. So three things to be looking out for so you'll recognize. And let me tell you, I have you type in my name, John Kostick, on YouTube. We've got 5 videos on the parallels between Moses and Jesus. To watch all 5 takes 7 hours. And it's just rapid fire parallels. You know, they were both both had all the babies under 2 years of age killed. Moses and the Jesus. If Moses sang, Jesus sang. It's just incredible. Moses cried, Jesus cried. There's a reference to every little minute thing one of them did. So the Jews, everybody has no excuse. How will we know who the Messiah is? If you understand Moses, you'll know the parallel. Okay, so it's got to be him. Okay? But Moses, remember, he led the people across, but he could not go into the promised land. Okay, Moses doesn't do everything. Moses isn't the Messiah, so he didn't get to do everything. And if you remember why he didn't go into the promised land, because they needed water at one point, and he was supposed to gather the people together, strike the rock, water would come out, everybody drank, and then like 30-some years later, they needed to do it again, and God told Moses, gather the people and speak to the rock. Well, Moses was upset with the people, and he ended up striking the rock twice. It's interesting he struck it twice before God got angry. Because I can see sometimes you're in a fit and you're angry with these people and you strike the rock. Wrong place right there. That's kind of a... That was only once. But that's the point, you see. Moses could have been angry and accidentally struck it once. Oh, I'm sorry about that. You know? But when you strike it twice, that's intentional. And that's the problem with Moses on this. And because he disobeyed him, God was setting up a really cool picture because the rock was Messiah. And Messiah is going to come twice. The first time Messiah comes, he's going to be struck. He's the suffering servant. He gets beaten and crucified. But when he comes the second time, he's King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And you don't strike him. You speak to him. And Moses messed up that parallel. Although the parallel still lives on, we get it. Okay? Even though Moses messed it up. God can take something bad and make it good. So, I want to show you one little, kind of the last thing here with Moses, why he couldn't win, and then we'll lead into the Joshua talk. And this, for those who don't know the Hebrew letters, we learned a couple of them here. This is the letter Mem. We've seen it before. Mem is one of those letters that has two shapes. If it shows up as the last letter of the word, you use this shape. And this one, if it's anywhere at the beginning or middle. Mem represents water, okay? And in fact, there's two kinds of water on the planet. There's this kind of water. You see this opening here? It's water that flows, rivers and streams. And here you have lakes and ponds that are enclosed. So you have both kinds of water covered. And the word for water in Hebrew is mayim. And it's spelled Mem, Yod, Mem. Yod is that tiny little apostrophe looking letter. Alright? I think Mayim in Hebrew, if a word ends in Yod, Mem, that's plural. You've heard it before. A cherub is one angel. The cherubim, there's that I am at the end, that's plural. Angels. Okay? Goy. A goy is a non-Jew. The goyim are the Gentiles. Okay? Plural. So because mayim, water, ends in I am, I'm assuming water. I never think about water. Is it singular? Is it, hey, give me some water. Are you giving me one thing or are you giving me multiple things?
Yes.
According to Hebrew, it looks like multiple. It ends in with them. And here's the verse where it all happened. Numbers 20:11. Then Moses lifted up his hand and he struck the rock with his rod twice. and water came forth abundantly, and the congregation and the beasts drank. By the way, instead of, I should have told you this the other night, I see a lot of people writing down and copying all of everything that's on the screen. Two things I've learned. One is when Jews go to synagogue, they don't take notes. Absorb it. Don't, because I've sat listening to preachers before, and I have the program and a pen, and I'm on the margin. Oh, that's good. And then I get home and I think, what in the is this? I can't make out what it says. I don't remember the context. So it might be a waste of time. And second, I have a website. It's called what's it called? DutchUncleJohn.org. And most every slideshow that you see is there for free. You can just download it in PDF form.
That's awesome.
And you have,
That's very cool.
yeah, you don't have this one yet, but it'll be up in a month. And anything that I'm doing this week is not up yet, but it'll be up in a month because I'll film it and put them up. So then you don't have to sit and copy, you can just absorb. If you want. Do as you please. Look at that, Goldie. Okay, so Moses lifted up his hand and struck the rock. The Hebrew word here for rock is Selah. Selah. It's a Samek, a Lamed, and an Ayin. Okay. Here's the word, Selah. And what's cool here, let's make a rock. By the way, I made these slides on a flight from Tokyo to Auckland, New Zealand. It's a long flight, and I remember making this rock on that flight. Okay, so there's a rock, and the word Selah is Samek, is the first letter. Samek is the S sound. And Samek is a letter, but Samek is also a word, right? And it's, how's it spelled? Samek, Mem, Kaf. Samek. Makes sense, right? Samek. The next letter is a Lamed. Lamed is Lamed, Mem, Dalet. Lamed. Makes sense? Okay. Ayin. Ayin is a letter, Ayin is a word. Ayin is Ayin, Yod, Nun. Ayin. Got it? Okay, so what the verse say? It says, then Moses lifted up his hand and struck the rock. With his rod twice.
Don't strike that TV.
Huh?
I said, just don't strike that TV.
I'm not.
You'll feel like Moses.
And water came forth abundantly, and the congregation and the beast drank. So he struck it twice, and the rock split, right? And water comes out. And look what's left there in the middle. There's two mems and a yod. Mem 2 yod. Mem 2 yod. That kind of reminds me of H2O. There's two H's and one O. There's two mems and a yod. Okay? And if you have two mems and a yod, you can put mem, and a yod. It spells water. Isn't that clever how that worked out? Okay? And then in Deuteronomy 1:37-38, the Lord was also angry with me on your account, and he said, not even you shall enter the land. Joshua, son of Nun, who stands before you, will enter it. Encourage him, for he will enable Israel to inherit the land. It's Joshua, son of Nun. Nun is a Hebrew letter. Okay? It's the N sound. By the way, this is just different fonts, right? It's Arial, Times New Roman, and David is the name of that font. That's the one I usually use, David. It looks Hebrew-y to me. And the noon is the 14th letter. It's the end sound. Its ancient picture is a fish or a sperm. Okay? And it represents life because a fish's tail is always moving, up, down, up, down. In fact, this up, down, up, that's where we get the letter up, down, up, N. It's a noon. Makes sense? Okay? God was first on everything, right? And then man just stole it and twisted it and claimed it. And we have, it says here that Joshua encouraging, he will enable Israel to inherit the land. So it's Joshua who's going to shepherd God's people, right? And in Matthew 2:6, it says, "And you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the leaders of Judah. For from you will come forth a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." We're talking about Yeshua here, and we have Yeshua is going to shepherd God's people. So there's a very simple parallel between the two. Okay. By the way, this Matthew 2:6, notice it's written in all caps. Why? Whenever you see in the New Testament something that's all caps, it's quoting an Old Testament verse. This is Micah 5:2. But because it's in the New Testament and it's word for word, they put it in all caps, so you'll say, this is something from the Old Testament. A lot of English versions do that. Okay, so both Joshua and Yeshua will both shepherd God's people. So Moses sent them. Now this is whenever they would get to the promised land at first. And remember, they didn't go in right away. They sent spies in, Moses. So Moses sent them from the wilderness of Paran at the command of the Lord. All of the men who were heads of the sons of Israel, then these were their names. Or these then were their names. So each tribe sent a spy in. And let's see, from the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea ben Nun was that's Joshua. Okay, that's the Hebrew. Now I know what it's like. Words. So there's 12 tribes, and from Ephraim came Joshua ben Nun. There he is. Ephraim, Joshua ben Nun. And by the way, the word Joshua means salvation. Nice to know. Okay. These are the names of the men whom Moses sent. That's kind of saying the same thing. Salvation. And if you put a yod in front of it, Yahushua, this would be Yah saves. Okay? And in the New Testament, we have Matthew 1:21. It says, "She will bear a son, and you will call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins." I don't like this translation because the name Jesus has nothing to do with saving people from their sins. You know, Mary is a Jewish girl, and the angel comes and Joseph's a Jewish man. The angel comes and says, "You will have a son, you will name him." The angel ain't going to say Jesus. It's Yeshua, the Jewish name for salvation. It makes sense, right? Jesus means nothing. So we'll scratch that out and we'll put Yeshua. And Yeshua means Yah saves. Okay? So we have similar names between these two characters, Joshua and Yeshua. In fact, if you look in Nehemiah 8:17, it says, entire assembly returned from captivity, made booths, lived in booths. Indeed, sons of Israel had not done so since the days of Joshua, son of Nun. Look here, Joshua, here it is here, Joshua, son of Nun. Joshua is spelled Yud, Shin, Vav, Ayin. That's the exact spelling of Yeshua. So Joshua's name, I think, is 3 or 4 different ways spelled throughout the Old Testament. And one of the times it's spelled exactly like Jesus. Okay? There they are. So not only do they have similar names, they have exactly the same name. Okay? Same names. Yeshua, Yeshua. But we're going to call him Joshua, just so we don't get confused. And he's from the tribe of Ephraim. Okay? Remember, Ephraim was, Joseph had 2 sons, and they got to be adopted, right? So Ephraim, Ephraim, by the way, comes from this root word, peri, P-R-I, P-R, Pei, Resh, Yod. And anyone know what peri means in Hebrew?
Fruit.
Fruit, very nice. And it kind of even makes sense because, look, the P, in English, P sometimes becomes F, right? Phone. And then you have a resh, that's the R sound. And then you have a vowel. So you kind of have a through there. So it's easy to remember that P-R-I, or Pei Resh Yod, is fruit. Okay? Because it's fruit. And in Micah 5:2, it says, "But as for you, Bethlehem Ephratah, too little among the clans of Judah, from you one will go forth, your ruler, he's going forth from long ago, days of eternity." This is talking about the Messiah, Jesus, and he's coming from Bethlehem Ephratah. And you can see the Ephratah has the PR, it's the same PR, fruitful. So there's a fruitfulness between the two, Joshua and Yeshua. Okay? Let's see what it says here. Now, Joshua was full of the Spirit. Yes. But Joshua, son of Nun, full of the Spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him, so the children of Israel heeded him and did as the Lord had commanded Moses. In Isaiah 42:1, "Here is my servant whom I uphold, my chosen one in whom my soul delights. I will put my spirit on him, and he will bring justice to the nations." I think we have one more here. What I want to point out here is that Joshua was anointed. Moses laid his hands on him and anointed him to succeed him. And in the New Testament, Matthew, when he had been baptized, Jesus came up from the water, heavens were opened to him, the Spirit of God descending like a dove, alighting on him, and suddenly a voice from heaven said to my beloved Son, whom I'm well pleased. So here, Jesus is getting the anointing from the Holy Spirit. So we have both of them anointed. Okay. After the death of his servant Moses, the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, "My servant is dead, therefore arise, you and all the people, cross over the Jordan into the land that I'm giving the children of Israel. I've given you every place where the sole of your foot will tread, as I promised Moses. Your territory shall extend from the wilderness and Lebanon to the great river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, as far as the great sea." Well, you know, if you map that out, I thought I had a map here, maybe it's in a slide or two. But what we do have is that Joshua is a military commander who's going to dispossess the usurpers of the land. The people who are there who aren't supposed to be there, he's going to take rid of them. Okay? And Jesus, he's a military commander, and he's going to dispossess the usurpers of the earth. So there's a parallel in that. Okay? Here comes the map. So if you follow what it says here, because here's what Israel looks like right now. But it says from the wilderness and this Lebanon, as far as the great river Euphrates. Euphrates River is over here. Toward the all the way to the Hittites, Great Sea toward the Great Sea is over here. So you see, that's the promised land. And the world's going upside down crazy because the Jews want this much. And they want to divide that much. Okay, Joshua then says, in the book of Joshua, no one shall stand against you all the days of your life. This is God talking to Joshua. As I was with Moses, I will also be with you. I'll never leave or forsake you. Verse 6, be strong and courageous, for you shall give these people the inheritance of the land that I swore to their fathers I would give them. Above all, be strong and courageous. He's saying it twice. Must register. Be careful to observe all the law that my servant Moses commanded you. Don't turn to the right or left, that you may prosper wherever you go. The book of the law must not depart from your mouth. Meditate on it day and night. Be careful to do everything written in it. You will prosper. Have I not commanded you to be strong and courageous? 3 times in, 9 verses. Let's be instruction to be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Okay, the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Then Joshua commanded the officers, go through the camp and tell the people, prepare your provisions, for in 3 days you're going to cross the Jordan and go in and take possession of the land the Lord God is giving you. He did say to the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half-tribe of Manasseh, hey guys, you need to come in with us and fight the enemy. You're going to leave your wife and kids over on this side of the Jordan. You come over and fight with us. Then you can come back and get your kin and we'll divide up the land and you can take possession of your land. Reuben, his land was on that side of the Jordan, not the Israel side. And so we don't want you to stay here. You got to come over here and fight with us. Then you can come back and claim your wives, young children, livestock. Okay. And they answered Joshua, everything you have commanded we will do. Just as we obeyed Moses, we will obey you. Anyone who rebels against your word and does not obey your words will be put to death. Above all, be strong and courageous. So we got 4 times now in the first chapter of Joshua. Okay, Joshua 2. Now, Joshua Solomon sent 2 men to go into the land and spy, to go into Jericho. And remember, this is they came to the house of a harlot named Rahab. And they made a deal with her, if you hang a scarlet cord out the window, then your house and your family, everybody inside will be spared, right? And she does. And she sent them away, they departed, and she bound the scarlet cord in the window. So when the Jews do come to attack, don't. Because she protected them, right? Whenever they were saying. Let's see. So Joshua sends in the 2 men, but Joshua said to the 2 men who spied out the country, go into the harlot's house, and from there bring out the woman and all that she has as you swore to her. So he's reminding them, we promised her safety, so, okay. But we have Joshua who sends in 2 unnamed spies. In Revelation 11:3, it says, and I will grant authority to my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth. So we have Jesus is sending in 2 witnesses to Jerusalem. You see, there's a parallel here. And the 2 that Jesus is sending in are unnamed. Right? Moses and Elijah. In case you're keeping score. Huh? Spoiler. I actually have proof that it's those two. If we have time, remind me one day this week to show you. Yeah, it's amazing. And they're going to be sent, he's sending those two witnesses in for 42 months, or 1,260 days, or time, and half a time, or half of this 70 of Shavuot from Daniel's. It's the same amount of time, okay, 3.5 years. Yeah, this is just more talking about those two witnesses that they're being sent in, you know. And here's one of the, they have the power of the waters to turn them to blood. That's a Moses trick, right? And another one, they have the power to shut up the sky so that rain will not fall. That's an Elijah trick, okay? That's not my proof. The proof is really cool. And then when they finish their testimonies, the beast that comes up out of the abyss will make war with them and overcome them and kill them. And their dead bodies will lie in the streets of the great city, which mystically is called Sodom and Egypt. That's weird. In the book of Revelation, those two witnesses that are come, they're going to be killed, and their bodies are going to lay in the street of the great city, which is called Sodom. What city do we know of is called Sodom, or is called Egypt? I don't think of one. But there's another clue, where also their Lord was crucified. It's Jerusalem. Since when is Jerusalem known as Sodom or Egypt? I've never heard that in the Bible, except for this place right here, where God is referring to Jerusalem as, it's known as Sodom. And I think I have another talk, maybe it's coming this week, as to why he called them Sodom in Egypt. It's in tomorrow's another talk. I don't know.
Oh, please.
Quickly, Sodom, because of all the sin that, if you've been to Israel, they will light, in Tel Aviv, they light up buildings with rainbow for the LGBT, ABC groups. They've turned away from Yeshua, their Messiah, right? So they're behaving like Sodom, right? And the Egypt reference is because they're in bondage, the bondage of sin. So that's the reason he refers to Jerusalem as those two. Now I don't have to come later in the week and tell you all that. So they both send in two unnamed witnesses. Joshua is said to two men who spy the country, go to the harlot's house, bring out the woman, okay. By faith, the prostitute Rahab did not perish along with those who were disobedient after she had welcomed the spies in peace. In the same way, Rahab, the prostitute, not justified by works, also when she received the messages and sent them out by another way. Why do we have this? Oh, okay. Because the two witnesses, they saved Rahab, right? There's some salvation involved. And you will bear a son and you call him Yeshua because he will save people from their sins. And Christ, being offered once to bear the sins of many, will appear a second time for salvation without reference to sin to those who eagerly await him. So we have both Joshua and Yeshua. They both bring salvation to sinners. Right? Because Rahab, harlot, sinner. So the men said to her, we will be blameless of this oath of ours, which you have made us swear. Unless when we come to the land, you bind this scarlet cord out the window, okay, through which you let us down, unless you bring your father, mother, brothers, all your family's household, father's household to the home. So you're saved as long as you got that cord hanging out the window. That scarlet cord, scarlet is shani in Hebrew, okay? And the word cord is tikva. Tav, kuf, vav, hey. So you have a cord that is scarlet. Okay, that's how they would word it there. And it's interesting, that word tikva, let me put here. The national anthem of Israel is called Hatikva. The cord? That's an odd name for it. But the word tikva also has another meaning. It means hope. Which, if she's putting a cord out, that's her hope is in that cord, okay? So I got goosebumps for some reason. Okay, Hatikva, the cord, the hope. Here it is. Let me read. We have it easier to read here. So here it is in Hebrew. As long as in the heart within a Jewish soul still yearns, and onward towards the ends of the east, an eye still gazes towards Zion. That's the first verse of their national anthem. I'll let you absorb that for 10 seconds. And there are many verses to it, but that's the first verse. And that scarlet cord theme does run throughout the Old Testament, right? When it came time for Tamar to give birth, remember Tamar? This was Judah's son's wife. He died. The next one didn't want to have relations with her, died. Third one was too young. And so she tricked Judah by acting like a prostitute, okay? And when she's having babies, she has twins. And she's giving birth. One put out his hand. Midwife took a scarlet thread, tied around the wrist. He pulled his hand back, and then his brother came out, and she said, you have broken out first. So she named him Peretz. That's an odd sentence. Why is she telling that baby, you came out first, so I'm going to call you Peretz? What does Peretz have to do with you coming out first? You understand that? Why is she saying this? Because it's the word Peretz means to burst forth. That's a Hebrew word. So because you burst forth first, I'm going to call you burst forth. But the Hebrew word, Peretz. You understand? It's kind of clever. Then his brother came out with a scarlet thread around his wrist, and she named him Zerach. Okay, Zerach means to increase. And, you know what? I'm not worried about the time. If we don't finish this talk tonight, I've been working on this talk for 6 years. It's not even finished. You're getting what I got done. And there's probably going to be 2 nights worth. But what I have done is good, I think, so far. But so we'll take a minute to. Zerach means to increase. Peretz means to burst out, burst forth. And how do those names relate? Well, these 2 babies actually is a prophetic picture. They represent the Jews and the Gentiles. Because Tamar, she's pregnant, and out comes this hand. This is Israel, and they put the red band on it. But then Israel came out for the Messiah, but then they went back and rejected. And then what happened? The Gentiles burst forth. And for the last 2,000 years, the Gentiles accepted. And then, in the future, the Jews are going to be born again. You understand? So there is that picture. And even Zerach's name, Zerach means to get bigger, right? And Israel has been getting bigger. And, you know what else about Israel? If you see the name Israel, do we have it written anywhere up here, Israel? You see it on any of these? No, 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 no.
We do.
Yeah. Anyway,
It's almost on stage.
Israel, it begins with a yod, which is the tiniest letter, Sarayal. Lamed is the biggest letter. So just the word alone is increasing. Just like Zerach means to increase. Right? That's okay, they got the picture. You know, and I just put this in just because it made me think. If you look at other religions, or if you were going to create a religion, your superhero, super god, whatever, you're going to make him perfect, right? He's just the best of the best of the best, and no mistakes, no. And that's not how God worked on this. Okay? Because if you want to get to your Messiah, it starts out on this side, you have Lot and his daughter. Lot, remember, this is Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And they get, it gets exploded and burned up, and the wife turns to salt. And now it's Lot and his two daughters, and they're thinking, oh my goodness, we're the only 3 people left on the planet, and we need to replenish. So one of us needs to get Dad drunk and sleep with him, and then tomorrow night the other one will. Okay? And you can kind of almost see them thinking that. All right, here we go. Because it does have a name thing.
Right here.
Oh, yeah. You see Israel? It's a yod, smallest letter, to the lamed, the biggest letter.
I'll tell you what, let's start with this one right here.
Oh, I gotta do
I'm
everything.
so sorry. Very good, all right, perfect. You man.
I'm the man.
That's right.
Israel. Smallest to biggest.
That's amazing.
So, the first daughter sleeps with her dad, and they have a baby. It's conceived in incest, right? And they named the baby Moab. Anyone know what Moab means? You see Abba in there. Abba means father.
Like son from dad?
If you put a mem in front of a word, that mem works as a prefix in Hebrew. It means from. So Moab means from daddy. Right? The girl named her baby from daddy.
Oh, there you go.
Yes. And then generations later, you get the Moabite Ruth. Right? There's Moab. So she's not a Jew. She's a foreigner. So there's the one side. The other side, you got Judah and Tamar, which we already said. Tamar tricked Judah, saying she's a prostitute, to get him to sleep with her. So this baby's conceived in deceit, right? They have twins, Peretz and Zerach. Peretz is the father, eventually, of Salmon, who married Rahab. Rahab has the red scarlet cord. And so now this baby's conceived by a harlot. And they have Boaz. These two come together and have Obed, who has Jesse, David, Mashiach. Who did that? That was weird. So Mashiach, it's Yeshua HaMashiach, okay? Jesus the Christ. It's a dirty lineage, you know? But that's okay. It's like, you know, that's life. You know? Beautiful. And when I look at these, four, you got Lot and the daughter, that's bad. Moabite. Oh, all of them are bad. How did God get around such bad things? A foreigner, incest, deceit, harlot, grace, grace, grace. Why is it doing that? So grace overcomes anything, right? That's a nice picture. Okay, and then this whole scarlet thread theme, it continues on. The priest is to take cedar wood, hyssop, and scarlet wool, throw them into the burning heifer, and the priest shall wash his clothes and bathe. Okay, this is the red heifer sacrifice, and there's scarlet. Red heifer, that's Jesus. He is the picture of the red heifer sacrifice. We did a whole talk on that a couple of years ago here. We should do that one again sometime. Okay, if you want to clean the house of being spiritually unclean, you know, there's certain things that are unclean and clean in the law. It involves cedar wood, scarlet string, and hyssop. So there's the scarlet thread is running all the way through the Bible, right up to the Messiah. So you've got a scarlet cord tied in with both Joshua and Yeshua. What's this here? Joshua called the 12 men whom he had appointed from the sons of Israel, one man from each tribe. So Joshua picks 12, and we have Yeshua. I'm not going to read all their names, but he picked appointed 12, right? So we've got appointed 12 spies / apostles. Thus the sons of Israel. You know, I can read it better from here. Am I still in the shot? It's time for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. Thus the sons of Israel did as Joshua commanded, and took up the 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, just as the Lord spoke to Joshua, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Israel. And Joshua set up 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan. This is when they crossed over, right? They put 12 stones in a pile there. Now, there's a parallel, huh? I'm sure they are, yeah. So the parallel, kind of, well, we do know that they were still there in Matthew 3, because remember this happened back in Joshua 4, they put up the stones, and when John the Baptist saw many of the Pharisees and Sadducees coming for baptism, he said to them, "You brood of vipers, who warned you to flee from the wrath to come? Therefore bear fruit in keeping with repentance, and do not suppose that you can say to yourself, 'We have Abraham for our father,' for I say to you that from these stones God is able to raise up children of Abraham." He's referring to the stones that Joshua put all those many years ago. And then in the New Testament, it says, "You carried me away in the Spirit." This is where John was taken up and shown to a high mountain, and they had a great high wall with 12 gates, and at the gate 12 angels, names written on them. And there were 3 gates on the east, north, south, and west. And the wall of the city had 12 stones, foundation stones. On them were the 12 names of the 12 apostles. Okay, ready, next one. "And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne from the Lamb of God," from the Lamb. So you have Joshua, he sets up 12 stones in a river, and Jesus is going to set up a river in the midst of 12 stones. Yes?
Yeah.
Am I making something up here? Do you see it too? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, sets 12 stones in a river, sets a river in 12 stones. And the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month and camped at Gilgal on the eastern edge of Jericho. So we have Joshua entering the land on Nisan 10. 6 days before Passover, Jesus came to Bethany where Lazarus was, whom he had raised from the dead. That was on 9 Nisan. And the next day, a large crowd came to the feast, and they heard Jesus was coming. This is when he enters on the donkey, right? And this is going to be on the 10th. So they both have a triumphant entry on the 10th day of Nisan. Joshua enters the promised land. Jesus enters Jerusalem. Okay? You know, people often ask me, you know, is the United States, are we in Bible prophecy?
Yes.
Here we are, right here. USA. That's about the extent of it. Okay. And the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, camped Gilgal on the eastern edge of Jericho. Remember, here's Israel. Here's Israel. Here's the Jordan River. And here's where they were. So when they entered this way. For just as lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. We know Yeshua is going to enter from the east to the west. Joshua entered east to west. They're both going to enter the promised land in the same direction. Yep. By the way, you're going to see lots and lots of parallels in nothing compared to the parallels with Moses. Moses, it's not even close. Okay? Because God didn't want anybody confused who the Messiah is. Moses got all of them. Okay? That's a lot of reading. What does it say? Okay, Joshua was by Jericho. He lifted up his eyes, looked, man was standing. Oh yeah, this is are you for us, the adversaries? Captain, the host of the Lord. Joshua fell on his face. Remove your sandals. This here. The captain of the Lord's host said to Joshua, remove your sandals from your feet, for the place where you're standing is holy. And Joshua did so. We know what that tells us? It's God. Only God says remove your feet, remove your shoes from your feet, because the land is holy. The land's not holy because an angel's there. So here, he's talking to God. Okay? And he's talking to Jesus. It's a Christophany, they call it. An early, pre-appearance, an Old Testament appearance of Christ. Okay? I know what I'm hitting wrong. That makes sense now. So we actually have where Joshua meets Joshua, or Yeshua meets Joshua, right? Now Jericho was tightly shut because of the sons of Israel, no one in or out. The Lord said to Joshua, I've handed Jericho over to you. You shall march around the city, all the men of war circling the city once. You shall do so for 6 days. Okay, watch this. This is kind of cool. You've got, on day 1, you have the first march. This is not, by the way, the 1st of March. This is not a calendar date, you understand? It's their first march around the city. And on day 2, you have their second march. And 6 days, 1 march per day. Then, also, 7 priests shall carry 7 trumpets in front of the ark. On the 7th day, you will march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets. So, on the 7th day, you're going to do 7 marches. Make sense? Once per day. On the 7th day, 7 times. On the 7th day, you shall march 7th time, and the priest shall blow the trumpets. So on the 7th time around, on that 7th day, you're going to blow 7 trumpets. So you see, there's a 7 that turns into a 7, that turns into a 7. Right? And in the New Testament, Revelation, I saw a scroll in his right hand, writing on both sides. It was sealed with 7 seals. Okay? So we have these 7 seal judgments. Right? The first one is the Antichrist, then what's a war, and then famine, and then death. And then there's 3 more. And when the 7th one happens, then the Lamb opened the 7th seal, and there was silence in heaven for half an hour. And I saw, that's interesting, that half an hour. That God is using half an hour. Normally he's talking in eons, or eternities. I mean, he's got, silence for half an hour. I saw the 7 angels stand before God, and they were given 7 trumpets. So we have the 7 seals, and the 7th seal opens up 7 trumpets. And the 7th trumpet, then I heard a loud voice from the temple saying to the 7 angels, go pour on the earth 7 bowls. And so you have this telescopic events occur in a telescopic 7s. Yes? So there's a parallel. So it was when Joshua had spoken to the people that I think just the whole picture of going around, that Jericho is a picture of the world, and maybe the circling of Jericho might picture the saints executing the Great Commission. And the Great Commission, remember, is Acts 1:8. You receive power when the Holy Spirit come upon you, and you will be witness to me in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and all the end of the earth. Anyone know where this is? This is where I live.
Yeah.
Kyrgyzstan. It's at the uttermost parts of the earth, right? This is not the end of the earth, but you can see the end of the earth from here. Here's where I live, Bishkek. That's the capital. This up here is Kazakhstan. This is Uzbekistan. This is Tajikistan. And this is China.
China.
We actually border China. Well, there's one little road that goes through, and there's big mountains, and it's not easy to get through, but there is a road that goes through someplace. And remember, a few years ago, I went to Kyrgyzstan to visit my friends for 10 days in Bishkek. And it was Max and his wife Kay, and Max says, hey, I want to take you to my parents' village. Well, the village from Bishkek, this is not really Bible related, but it's a little fun break, right? It's a 3-hour drive from Bishkek to Balakchi. Balakchi's right on that edge of that lake. This is Lake Issyk-Kol. Issyk means warm, and Kol is lake, warm lake. It's freezing. But if it's the only lake you got, they love it. And then all on the weekends, in the sun, from the spring to fall, it's just like non-stop traffic taking that 3-hour drive. The 3-hour drive gets you to Balakchi, and then probably another hour gets you here to Chelaporata. That's kind of the beaches and the hotels and the big Ferris wheel and all the tourist crap.
Sounds like severe.
And to get what?
Sounds like severe miracle.
Then from here, it's probably another 3 hours to Karakol. And then from Karakol, maybe a half an hour over here. I mean, we're talking, you're a lot. I mean, there's nothing, it's just wilderness, villages, ox cart on the dirt road in town, you know, a donkey pulling a little wooden cart. It's very basic. And so we get there to this little town, Aksul, and on the third day of my 10 days there, we went to Aksul. On the fourth day, COVID was rampant worldwide, and the government of Kyrgyzstan said, everything, all borders are closed. Even wherever you are in Kyrgyzstan, if you're in a village, those borders of that village are closed. So you cannot even go to the neighboring village, we couldn't go to Karakol to get groceries or anything. Everything had to be, now fortunately we were on a little farm, and I mean, it might be an acre and a half. We had 2 cows, so we had milk. We had half dozen or two chickens, so we had eggs. They had lots of sheep, so once in a while we'd cut a sheep and we had meat. They had a garden with potatoes and all that food, carrots, beets. It's Russia, right? It's ex-Russia. Right? We eat a lot of that. And I was stuck in that village for 3 months before they opened the village borders that you could now return to Bishkek or wherever you needed to go. And when I got back to Bishkek, I was there for 2 months until they opened the borders that I could fly out. So I ended up being 5 months, 3 of them in that really basic, and it was nice. It was like Green Acres, you know?
Tell them about the band that came to get you.
About what?
When the band came to get you.
When the band came
yeah.
to get you.
Yeah, she asked, I'm supposed to repeat questions.
Yeah, you did good.
The people at home Canada, tell them about the van that came to get me. When I first was there for about a week or 2 or 3, you know, the neighbors realized there's somebody living in this place that is not normal. He's not. So somebody called the authorities, and the authorities showed up in this like 1955 Russian ambulance, and the people come out of it in hazmat suits because somebody told them that at this farm there's an Italian guy who's got COVID. And my people, what I was staying with, they would not let them in to get me, and they would not let me go out to see them. They said, if they take you, they will put you in some hospital, quarantine, and you're going to eat crap and be miserable for the next 3 weeks or something until they clear you. So there was like half an hour of arguing, and they finally said, okay, he's not allowed to leave the premises. So I really was trapped. Oh, I went to the store and bought Snickers and Coca-Cola, and it was a good time. But anyway, that's where I was for a long time, 5 months. And then I fell in love with the place. So that's where I live now. Okay, back to the story. Okay, it shall come to pass when they make a long blast with the ram's horn. Remember, they just walked around 7 times and then they're blowing the truck 7 times. When they make a long blast with the ram's horn, when you hear the sound of the trumpet, and all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people will go up every man straight before him. Watch this. What does it say here? Sorry about that. I said something before God. Okay, we already talked about that. What's the good stuff? When Joshua commanded people saying, you shall not shout or make any noise with your voice, nor shall a word proceed of your mouth until I say to you, shout, then you shall shout. And the seventh time it happened, the priest blew the trumpet that Joshua said to the people, shout, for the Lord has given you the city. Right? There was a time where they were just to walk around the city quiet. Don't say a thing. And look in Revelation. When he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for half an hour. So both Joshua and Jesus is a silent period. Joshua rose early in the morning, the priest took up the ark, people shouted when the priest blew the trumpet. It happened when people heard the sound of the trumpet. People shouted a great shout, wall fell down flat, people went into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. Look what happened. The priest took the ark, then the people shouted,
Hooray!
then the priest blew trumpets, and then the city collapsed. You see the order? Okay. That's the book of Joshua. Ark, shout, trumpet, city collapsed. Let's go to the book of Revelation. In the same hour there was a great earthquake, and a tenth of the city fell. City fell. That was the last one of, wasn't it? That was the last thing that happened in Revelation. It's the first thing that's happening. In an earthquake, 7,000 people were killed. The rest were afraid and gave glory to the God of heaven. The second woe is past, but the third woe is coming quickly. Then the seventh angel sounded his trumpet, and there were loud voices in heaven saying, the kingdom of this world has become the kingdom of our Lord and his Christ. What happened? And he shall reign forever and ever. Then the temple of God was opened in heaven, and the ark of his covenant was seen in the temple. Lightning, noise, thunderings, earthquake, great hail. So the first thing we happened was the city fell. Then we had trumpets. Then we had loud voices. Then we saw the ark. You notice it's the complete opposite. It's just the opposite. And this is called, we did a whole talk on it last year, I think it was, the chiastic structure of the Bible. Do you ever know what a chiasm is? A chiasm is when you take something that was normally this way and then switch it. Don't let a kiss fool you. Don't let a fool kiss you. That's a chiasm. It's a very simple one, right? It's just you could have, I'm telling you, the entire Bible is in a chiastic structure. At the beginning, you had eternity past. Over here, you have eternity future. Here at the beginning, you had a garden. There's going to be a garden in Revelation at the end, right? There was a tree in the garden. There's a tree in the garden. It just, everything matches up. And not only that, if you take just any particular story, I have a video about, I did the Noah story. The Noah story, every single part of it, if it happened here, it happened there. You'll see it on the YouTube. Look up the chiastic, there's a big X over my face. Because chiasm comes from the Greek chi, which is X. So it's an X structure. Remember, fool kiss you, kiss fool you. They switch places. But here in this Joshua 6, Revelation 11, the ark is seen, and at the end the ark is seen. People shout, loud voices in heaven. Priests blow trumpets, seventh angel blows trumpet. Walls fall down. But here, it's in this order, but in Revelation, it's this order. Right? They're just backward order. It's chiastic. Let's see, I've led you in the wilderness 40 years. Your clothes have not worn out. Your sandals have not worn on your foot. Okay, what time is it? We've got time. This is a little complicated. Let's have a sippage. Okay. See, I'm going to do these 40 years. You're clear with it. So, from the Exodus until they enter the Promised Land, it's 40 years. No worries there. The time we spent traveling from Kadesh Barnea until we crossed over the brook of Zered was 38 years. Until that entire generation of fighting men had perished from the camp as the Lord sworn to them. Right? Remember, they left Egypt, took them 2 years to get to the Promised Land, and they sent the spies in. The spies come back with a report that scared them. And they're giants, we don't want to go. And God said, all right, go wander 38 years. Right? So they had to wander 38 years from here to there, which means, how much is that?
2 years.
Math whizzes? That's 2 years, right? Because the whole thing is 40. All right, now, and then later in Joshua, because this is Deuteronomy here, it says, so the Israelites did as the Lord commanded Moses, they divided the land. So over here, sometime after entering the land, they divided the land. I would like to know how many years from here to here. And there's clues in the Bible where I can calculate that. And you're going to see them right now. Okay, this is Caleb talking. Caleb said, I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land. So Caleb is right here, 40 years old. Okay? And he brought back an honest report. Now, behold, this is Caleb talking later. Behold, as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive these 45 years since he spoke this word to Moses while Israel wandered in the wilderness. So I am here today, 85 years old. So Caleb is 85 here, which means it took 45 years from here to there. Okay? So the Israelites did as the Lord commanded Moses, and they divided the land. This, by the way, Caleb was 85 when they divided the land. So I think this word problem has enough information now to get the answer. Yes, no? Math man?
7 years earlier.
7. Yeah, if this is...
38 plus 7 equals 45.
Yep.
45 minus 38.
Yes, that works too.
So that's 7 years from the time they entered until they divided the land. Make sense how we got that? Okay. And, oh boy. Okay, this one's so we have a 7 year period before, right? To enter, till they divided. This is Daniel 9. 70 weeks. What? Okay. 70 weeks have been decreed. This is Daniel's prophecy about the Messiah, when it's coming, when he's coming. He saying. Okay. 70 weeks have been decreed for your people in your holy city to do these things. To finish transgression, make an end to sin, atonement for iniquity, everlasting righteousness, seal up vision and prophecy, anoint most holy place. So Daniel is saying, in 70 weeks, all of these things are going to happen. Now, 70 weeks, we say weeks in English, but in the Bible, it's a word Shabuah. It says, in 70 Shabuah have been decreed for your people. What's a Shabuah? A Shabuah is a period of 7 days is a Shabuah. 7 years is a Shabuah. A period of 7 somethings. So when it talks about 7 weeks, it's really talking about 7 weeks of years. okay? And, or even 7 weeks of years, that would be 49, right? 7. From the time Daniel wrote this, if you jumped ahead 49 years, was there an end of sin? No, it's everywhere. Right? None of these things happened in 7 Shavuot. And there are the 7 things that are supposed to happen. But you are to know and discern, and we have a whole talk on this alone, and I hate to not give it justice so pay attention quick, because we're not going to repeat it. You were to know and discern that from the issuing of a decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there will be 7 Shavuot and 62 Shavuot. And it will be built again with plows and mow, even in times of distress. So what Daniel is saying here is, in 7 Shavuot, all those things are supposed to happen, but we don't start the clock until somebody issues a decree to restore Jerusalem, sometime in the future. And then, once that decree is issued, there's going to be 7 Shavuot, that's 49 years, and 62 Shavuot, which is 434 years. Does that make sense? 7 Shavuot and 62 Shavuot. It's a total of 69 Shavuot. Shavuim. All right? But the original prophecy was 70 Shavuot. All these things are going to happen. And now we've accounted for 69 of them. There's that 70th Shavuot, right? Which is a 7-year period. We're going to not get into all that. This is okay. So, 49 and 62 Shavuot, that comes to 69 Shavuot, but the prophecy was 70 Shavuot. This, by the way, from the time Daniel's prophecy until this is fulfilled, that's when the Messiah came and got cut off. There's still 1 Shavuot left, which is a 7-year period, and that's where Jesus talked about, then there will be great tribulation. That's the 7-year period. Remember, Jesus, he's going to rapture his church, and then there's this 7-year period where Satan's going to try to rule the world, but he won't, because only Jesus is going to rule the world. So between the 69th and 70th Shavuot, that's the Great Tribulation. Okay. So what we see then is Joshua, he divided the land after a 7-year period. They entered the land. 7 years later, they divided it. And Jesus, he's going to also have a 7-year period before he takes possession of the land. They both have a 7-year period. Does that make sense? Yes. If it doesn't, I'm not repeating it. Just say, okay, I got most of them, but I didn't get that one so much. Let's do one more, and we'll finish this one tomorrow night, because there's heaps left, and there's some good stuff. This is the meat. You know, that stuff last night was comedy. This is the meat. Okay, this is a promise to Abraham. On the day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your descendants I've given this land, from the river of Egypt as far as the great river Euphrates, the land of the Kenite, Kenizzite, Canaanite, Hittite, Perizzite, Rephaim. There's 10 of them. There's 10 ites there, right? That's who's going to be dispossessed when he's given this land. So there's 10. But then in Joshua, it says, and Joshua said, by this you will know that the living God is among you, that he will surely drive out from you the Canaanite, Hittite, 7. It was promised to Abram that 10 would be removed, but now only 7 are being removed. Right? Yes.
It looks like it's all the seed of Cain.
Yeah, I don't know. Could be. She mentioned that these could be the seed of Cain, but his kids were Methuselah, or they had names. I don't know. It doesn't matter. All right, we're on. In Daniel, he talks about the 10 horns. Out of the kingdom, 10 kings will arise, and another will arise after them. And he will be different from the previous one, and he will humble 3 kings. So there will be 10, but then 3 will be left out, and then there's going to be 7. The 10 horns are 10 kings who have not received the kingdom. They will receive authority as kings of the beast for 1 hour. These have one purpose, to give power and authority to the beast. So, in Joshua's time, he's going to defeat a 7-kingdom nation that was originally a 10-kingdom nation that was prophesied to Abram. And in Jesus' time, there will be 10 kings where 3 of them are knocked down and there's only 7. And he's going to defeat them. So you see there's a parallel there between Joshua and Jesus. What do you think, Chief? Is there a football game we need to get home for or anything? Oh, that was last night.
Yeah, the game was last night.
Were y'all happy with the results of the game last night? He's a South Carolina fan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Joshua made a treaty of peace with them to let them live, and the leaders of the congregation swore an oath to them. Let's. I think we should stop here. All right. Let's have a prayer here. Dear Heavenly Father, awesome God, thank you again for bringing us out on this beautiful day that you've given us, and for sharing with us all these deep, beautiful insights between your son Yeshua and his predecessor Joshua. And it's just so much fun to dig out all these secrets that you have hidden in there. And we just ask that you bring us all back safely tomorrow. And we also always pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And we ask this in Yeshua Jesus' precious holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Where's the applause sign? Is it not working?